I'm standing on the footpath. I'm completely free to choose whether or not to cross the road. I have total free will. But the universe is made of subatomic particles which interact in ways that can be largely predicted by the laws of physics. As humans, we can't alter that. We can't make two electrons attract each other through an act of will. Quantum considerations do add a little bit of uncertainty to the interactions. For instance, we can't predict which slit an electron will pass through in the double-slit experiment. But then neither can we affect it. We have no control over the random wave function collapses that make it unpredictable, the only things, by the physical model, that are not set in stone before they happen. In that sense, we have no control over the way the universe will pan out. The universe will evolve through time in a given way determined only by its particle interactions. Being part of that universe, we evolve with it and therefore we evolve in a given way. Part of that evolution is the particle interactions in our brains which manifest as our minds, our thoughts, our consciousness. And part of that is the decisions we make. Our decisions are not always forced upon us by external constraints, e.g. someone making us to go a certain way, and in that sense we have free will. But they are always forced upon us by internal constraints, our particles, and in that sense we have no free will. If we are standing by the road deciding whether to cross or stay where we are, our particle interactions will lead to one course of action or the other, though we won't know which one, and we will feel like we have both options open to us. But what is going to happen is going to happen. No act of will independent of our particles can affect that. Life is going to be what it is going to be. Viewed as part of the four-dimensional space-time picture of the universe, it is a given. All we can do is go along for the ride. When we go on a roller coaster, we go where it takes us. No act of will on our part will make it go anywhere else. But we still enjoy the ride. Life is the same. We can still enjoy the ride, those bits that are enjoyable anyway. This doesn't mean, of course, that we don't make an effort with life. The more effort we make, generally the better life will be. It's just that the effort we make is determined by our particle interactions. And there is no need to feel bad about anything that we or anyone else has done. What happened was always going to happen and neither we nor anyone else could have changed that. So, to summarize. Do I have free will to cross the road or to not cross? No one and nothing outside of me is forcing me to cross or not cross. So I have free will in the sense that there are no external constraints on me. But I am totally constrained by the state of my atoms, a state which depends on my makeup, my past experience and what I perceive around me. So I have no free will in the sense that there are internal constraints on me that totally determine my actions. Both statements, that I have free will and that I don't have free will, are true, depending on whether one is considering just external constraints or internal constraints as well. Of course, this would not necessarily be true if there is a part of us which is independent of our particles, and which can change the actions of the particles, and hence the firings of our neurons, in ways not compatible with the laws of physics as we see them. That is what a soul or spirit would have to do. Most humans over history have assumed that there is this second part to us. This soul, rather than our atoms, would be what makes our decisions. Not being dependent upon our atoms, such a soul could survive after bodily death. Those who believe in an independent soul generally also see consciousness as a property of the soul rather than of the physical brain. This would mean that consciousness could continue after death in a meaningful afterlife. Most of those who believe in the soul and an afterlife believe that the afterlife is under the control of a god. The god has control over our souls after death and can assign them to various places. In some Eastern belief systems, the soul is either reassigned to another body, or it is united with the spiritual universe or God in an everlasting state of blissful oneness, the fate depending on how one behaved in the previous life. In Christianity and Islam, the soul is assigned to a place of bliss or a place of torture, depending not so much on how one behaved in this world as on what one believed. In nearly every case, there is an assumption that the soul has free will and can choose to make the body behave or the mind believe in the way required for heavenly reward. Or can choose not to. So the soul would be responsible for the choice it makes, and it would deserve whatever are the consequences of that choice. This idea, however, is at odds with what we observe. People whose parents are good people and people who are brought up well tend to be good people, whereas those with bad parents and bad upbringings have a better chance of turning out bad. In the same way, people brought up in the US tend to believe the Christian story, while those brought up in Pakistan tend to believe the Islamic story, and those brought up in India are more likely to have Hindu beliefs. This suggests that the soul is influenced by the genetics of the body with which it is associated and by the environment in which that body lives. As such, the soul is not independent of the particles which make up the body and the universe. Such a soul does not have total free will. But it could still be argued that it has partial free will. This element of free will is manifested as a tendency to be good or bad, to have faith or to be unbelieving. However, genetic and environmental factors can influence it one way or the other. The genetic and environmental factors are beyond the control of the soul, so any reward or punishment should be assigned purely on the soul's tendency to be good or bad, faithful or infidel. We might call a soul that tends to be good or faithful a good soul, and a soul that tends to be bad or to lack faith a bad soul. The problem then is that we have no say in whether we are given a good soul or a bad soul, or maybe we should say whether we are a good soul or we are a bad soul. The soul does not have free will in choosing its nature, and hence its eternal destiny, reward or punishment. Therefore, one would think, it does not deserve the consequences of its behavior or beliefs, especially if the consequence is an eternity of unbearable torture. All in all, therefore, the idea of a soul doesn't make total sense. At the very least, it couldn't be the creation of a God with any degree of fairness or compassion. Even if we do have a soul, we have the one we were given, good or bad, already destined for heaven or for hell, and there is nothing we can do to change its fate. So there's no real point in worrying about it or trying to do anything about it.